Welcome to another edition of Fall Rise Give. I'm Bob, that's Vipin. So every week we bring you on a journey. We bring you and share some stories of our lives and share some things that are meaningful and purposeful to the two of us. Even though we live 1,500 miles, or which is probably even further than that away from each other, Vipin, we still talk at least once a week. We email and text each other a couple of times a week. So we're part of each other's lives now, and you're going to have to live with that, my friend.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
So, it's funny. So you've dealt with me being a little under the weather the last, I don't know, 6-7 weeks. Ever since I got back from my trip from New Zealand, I really haven't been feeling that well. And you pointed that you're like, you can tell that you're a little under the weather. You texted me this week saying that you're still not feeling well, and you're going on a couple of weeks now. You're going on what, 3 weeks of not feeling great?
Yeah, 3 full weeks. It'll be tomorrow. I've had a sore throat, cold, headaches, which have now officially for the last week and 2 days have turned into a pretty bad sinus infection where just having throbbing headaches, no fever or anything like that, but just this cold and flu season has been pretty brutal across the country and the world. I think this year, a lot of people that I know have been sick, and it just lingers on just when you think you get better. And that's why, and at the same time, physical energy wise, I've been exhausted and tired and what have you. But my spiritual energy and my emotional energy has carried me through, and I've never been stronger in those areas. So yeah, so that's the topic of today is energy and how even when you're tired and you're sick, you can manage and or control your energy to get what you want. And so let's talk about that today.
That's a great topic because, as you said, everybody that I know seems to be dealing with this at some point or another this winter, and it's one of those colds that just kind of hangs on. I went to the clinic once. Monique went twice. You said that so this is something that it seems like everybody, no matter what part of the country you're in, not feeling well. I know I talked to my folks; they're feeling the same way. My kids have gone kind of through it in different phases. So how do we get over that hump of, man, I feel so shitty. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I just want to sit and veg and do not a dang thing. How do we get over that?
Yeah. So I think it's important to give yourself some rest. So let's get to the bottom of it first of all. When you're sick and or you're tired, depending on your situation, the universe or God, whatever form of higher power you want to mention, is essentially telling us we need to get rest, right? Rest is a form of healing and really important. So definitely rest up, definitely take whatever medications or go visit a clinic, which I did. I'm on antibiotics right now. I don't have a problem with Western medicine, so I think it's a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
So besides getting rest, we talk a lot about energies and the chakra system, right? And we've been kind of on the journey. We started out a number of weeks ago. We started talking about calm, centered, and loving, and being grounded, and went to desire and creativity, and kind of how to, put your desires out there, your New Year's resolution. And then last week we talked about action and getting over fears and acknowledging our fears and our emotions, and not to have this positive toxic positivity kind of a thing. It lets you really feel your emotions, feel your fears, and then just keep going anyways, right? And so that's kind of the next step is your heart chakra, and that's where your energy centers are, right? You talk about EKG machines that measure the output of your heart. Heart is really based on electrical energetic system, right? It puts out the energy, and when we get cold, we get cold or sickness in our chest, right? Oftentimes, starts out with our nostrils, breathing, our mouth, sore throat, but it really comes out from our chest and our heart energy. And so, let's talk about physical energy, then we'll talk about spiritual energy, then we'll talk about emotions a little bit. So, for me, what seems to work the best is, from a heart standpoint, like we said, get some rest, and then look at what's getting in the way for me. And usually it's me, myself, right? It's me feeling self-pity.
Yep.
It's me saying, oh God, I feel terrible. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And so oftentimes we may get sick because we may actually get resentments or anger or frustrations or stress from work that may be contributing to these things as across the board. And so, one of the ways that we've talked about in the past is looking at a spiritual way of kind of forgiving yourself and forgiving others, right? It doesn't necessarily make sense from a energetic standpoint if you think about it, but it really does from a spiritual standpoint. Once you get rid of the resentments and you clear the path in your mind and spiritual nature, one of the things that I do is this chakra meditation every day that we talk about. And in the fourth chakra, when I open that up, one of the things I do is I forgive people who wronged me from 20, 30 years ago. And there's two of them that I always forgive. And then others along the way, but not as specific as those two that have been a big impact in my life. And so I forgive them. Then I ask forgiveness from other people. I say, I wronged you in this situation, or I wronged this. And about 4 or 5 of those and 6 of those. And I go through and I just kind of clear that out. And then I say, I forgive myself.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was going to ask, do you ever forgive yourself? Because I find that a lot of times that, like you started this off with saying that it starts with you. And honestly, when there's times that I forgive myself for just doing stupid stuff, because we all do stupid things and have stupid thoughts and stupid actions.
We judge. I think we're our hardest critic.
Agreed.
And I think that, and we're a critic of other people as well, like parents, or, we have resentment towards parents or partners or whatever. But we we should, and again, those words like need and should don't always align with the way I want things to be. Sometimes I think we really do need to be able to say this person did the best that they could given the information that they had at the time. Mm-hmm. Given their mental state, given their spiritual state, given where they were in life and circumstances, they did the best that they could. And same thing with us, right? We all make mistakes. We're here as spiritual beings living a human experience. We live in a rational world. We're born to make mistakes. And we have to learn, we have to give ourselves a break. And most of the time, when we get older, we do learn from them, right? Experience is our biggest teacher. And experience really comes from making mistakes or failures or falling, as we call it, in Fall, Rise, Give. So really need to give ourselves a break, saying, I did the best that I could. I'm going to accept myself as I am. I'm going to do better today than I did yesterday. That's all I'm going to look for. And so giving yourself that positivity, that acceptance, that unconditional love, that's kind of where the spiritual energy starts.
You mentioned something about giving yourself a break, and I know that a lot of times, I don't think that we do. I think that a lot of times we don't give ourselves a break. We beat each other up. We beat not each other, but we beat ourselves up because, like, oh, I could have done a better job than this, or, oh, I should have done this, or, oh, I should have done that, or, and giving yourself, you need to give yourself a break. You need to give yourself a chance to do right after something screws up, because none of us are perfect. Each of us have mistakes. Each of us do stupid things. Each of us have different bad thoughts. And, even though we try to be good people, we do end up doing things that are harmful to ourselves and harmful to our loved ones and harmful to our relationships. We just need to, cut ourselves some slack.
I agree.
Because oftentimes we we'll give somebody else slack and give them the freedom to do stuff, but we don't give that selves to ourselves.
I think we got to provide some self-love to ourselves and just say, I'm human. I'm born to make mistakes. It's just the way it is. It's just, we all make mistakes, no matter who you are. Even the Dalai Lama had to apologize a couple of years ago for some stupid thing that people are thinking about. But everybody's born to make mistakes. We're human, and that's just part of it. So cut yourself some slack. There's a woman, Brené Brown. She has studied vulnerability, and is a professor at University of Texas now, but I think she spent over 20 years at University of Houston. And you can Google her, Brené Brown, videos of vulnerability, and she talks about self-acceptance and self-love and being vulnerable with yourself, acknowledging the vulnerabilities. Being vulnerable really means I made a mistake. I'm admitting to the fact that I did something wrong. Being able to share that with others, being able to say that I'm not the perfect person that I wanted to be in that situation, or I'm not even living up to the par. People who are addicts or alcoholics, they have made huge mistakes, and they find through recovery and other things, and or people who are in different situations go to a therapist and they work through a therapist, right? And they really, once you start acknowledging, like we said last time about the fears piece, but acknowledge to yourself that, hey, you made mistakes. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn from it? And once you start talking about what did you learn from it, then you start to put the lessons and turn that suffering, turn that falling into rising, and turn that into a gift that other people are going to listen to you, not because you think you're the smartest guy, but because they can relate to you. And most people can relate to making mistakes. Most people can relate to somebody being vulnerable. And once you show that human, heartfelt emotion of vulnerability, and you start to be able to show people that you're human, they don't expect you to be perfect. So that's kind of where it starts. To be able to self love, I think self love is really underrated, and that's where the heart comes in. If you
Mm-hmm.
start having self love, doesn't mean you're going to be perfect or self centered. It just means, I'm going to own up to my mistakes. I'm going to be vulnerable, share them with somebody else. I'm going to find the support that I need, and I'm going to find a way to be better tomorrow than I am today. It's not about being perfect. It's about being progress over perfection. It's just about doing something a little bit better tomorrow.
You mentioned something about seeing as human, and my mind all of a sudden went to kids, because I mean we both have children, and I know that the lessons that I have tried to teach throughout my life and my children's lives are basically problems that I've encountered myself, the way that I've come up and had solutions for these problems. And and you share them with your kids because you want your kids to do better than what you did and to not have the same issues and the same problems that you had over the course of your life. And I think now my kids are starting to see me as human rather than just as dad, and I think that's one of the hurdles that parents often have to deal with. Our kids see us just as a parental figure, not as a person that they can actually learn from as an adult.
I want to talk about this. I have been working on myself. We've talked about growing up in Minneapolis or St. Paul, sorry, Roseville, and being an immigrant child and getting picked on early on in middle school, and becoming confident to run marathons and start an internet company and being successful and all that, and having huge financial pitfalls and things like that. And a lot of the times I was very self-centered and very ego driven. I thought I had all the answers, that I thought I had to have all the answers. My confidence turned into arrogance, became self-centered. I thought I had all the problems. I didn't really trust God. I had faith in God, but I didn't really trust God. I didn't really let go. I didn't let go and let God in my life. I prayed, but I always about me, me, me. God, give me this. God, give me that. And I deep down inside, I wanted to help people, but I often let circumstances and situations control me. And oftentimes my emotions got the best of me. And I made a lot of mistakes being a parent, and I made a lot of mistakes in my career. Two main areas. And I was really hard on myself, and in turn, I was hard on others. And one of the biggest things that I learned, and I got the biggest compliment from my son this week. He said, Dad, he saw a situation that could have triggered me this week, and it didn't. And he's like, Dad, I'm really proud of you. You've become the person that I can look up to.
That's awesome.
And the example of that was really important to me. Here's a kid who's seen the worst of me. Kids are our biggest critic. They also
Hmm.
love us the most when we're centered and when we're loving. And he gave me the biggest compliment. And I have been acknowledging in myself the level of growth. And I talked to my coach this week as well. And he's like, at the same time, he's like, Vipin, you're coming a long ways. And this is why I was saying that physically I've been really wounded by the illness, but emotionally and spiritually I've never been stronger. And one of the tools that I've been using, um, and it was a therapist that mentioned this to me about 4 weeks ago. And I thought it was something that was important. So I started doing it. So every day I email myself a list of things that I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yep.
And then I added to it things that I'm insecure about. And I told you, like, my list of insecurities starting to go down, right? This is what I was saying, aha moment that we had a couple of weeks ago. And then I added to it things I could do better today. And by and large, what this has done for me, it starts to program in me that by and large, I'm doing okay. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm getting better every day. And the things that I can do better, sometimes I struggle to write those down. Now, I'm not perfect. I definitely have a list, but the list of insecurities and the list of things that I can do, they fluctuate. But by and large, I am okay with them. I accept them, and I'm okay to, little by little, day by day, working on myself. It's a great tool. I highly recommend any listener to email themselves a list of things every night or every morning or whatever. What did you do yesterday that you're proud of? What are you insecure about? And when you're insecure about something, try to come up with a solution. Maybe you just need to turn it over to a higher power, to the universe or God or whatever, and just let it go. And so do the best that you can. And then little by little, write down what you can do better. So that's kind of how I've been able to stay centered and self loving. And that's really a great tool. And it's helped me a lot spiritually and emotionally. And so, yeah, wanted to get your reaction on that. I know that you were taking some notes.
I agree with everything that you're talking about. I have never done any writing down of things until we started talking about it. I know that I've mentioned that my son does a lot of writing down. I've not tried the, emailing myself, but I do see how that would be very, very beneficial to a healthier living and to a more substantial way of life. I could definitely see the benefits of doing something like that, but I don't know if I have the patience to do that. And that's where I struggle with stuff like this, Vipin, is that I have a
Yeah.
hard time, first of all, committing to doing it, and then secondly, following through with it. I mean, I've given myself, an opportunity to do different things over the course of my lifetime, and it's like, I try it for a little bit, and it doesn't seem to, jump out, and obviously it's working for you, but I've had things go where it's like, this really should be working for me, and it's not, and I'm not having any success with it, so I just kind of stopped doing it. And I think that's probably the problem with most of us, as listeners or people that are around our lifetime or in our lives, that we just, we end up giving up before the how do you say it, giving up
Uh,
before the miracle. And I think
yeah.
that that's
Yeah.
probably what I'm guilty of, and what a lot of other people are guilty of as well, is that we give up before we actually had the success that we're looking for in doing different things, like, emailing yourself, or being a part of a group that where you give yourself positive motivations every day. And just some of the things that you've talked about, I could see, like I said, I could see how that would be beneficial and helpful to me, but I unfortunately, I don't practice that. I do like the breathing stuff that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
I do that stuff every day, and I mean, I find that stuff helps me out a lot. And I've also used your mantra a lot of the calm, centered, and loving, and I find
Yeah.
that that's actually helped me out in my relationship with Monique. Is that, I try to be calm, centered, and loving, especially when something triggers me and makes me upset. It's like, okay, let's bring it down, man. Let's be calm about this.
We throw a lot of tools out there. I throw a lot of tools out there.
Right.
And the base of all my mantras and my tools, these chakra mantras that we talked about, is the root one, right? So you're working
Mm-hmm.
on, it's January, totally okay. It's January 18th. A lot of people are quitting on their goals. As we said last week was a National Quitting the Gym Day.
Yeah, I think that was last Saturday,
And
wasn't
so
it?
it's really being conscious and being aware of where you are, where you at today. You spend a lot of time with family, you spend a lot of time watching TV, and you spend a lot of time working. I find time by morning. Even today, I woke up a little late, a little head cold still, taking antibiotics, and I
Mm.
found a way to listen to some motivational music. I did some prayers before we got started. I got my coffee, of course.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's a necessity. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts,
there's no
especially
ifs,
if you
ands,
live in
or ands
Seattle,
about it,
where
right?
the coffee capital of America.
Right. I think, isn't it interesting? We spend so much time doing stuff. How about spending 20 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, just taking care of yourself, just stopping, being aware, being self loving, and just saying throughout the day the base mantra, right? I'm calm, I'm centered, and I'm loving. I'd love for people to do that throughout the day, but for just 10 minutes and saying, just be easy and kind to yourself. And if you fill yourself up with that self love, that kindness of loving, right? Loving is important and spiritual, the heart chakra piece. Then you'll share that with the world. You lift your energy, you lift other people's energy. You walk into a room, and the biggest thing with energy, especially spiritual and emotional, physical, you can manage. You're going to manage. You're going to be alive. You're going to watch TV. You're going to do stuff. You're going to go for a walk. You're going to go eat. You're going to be able to do that. You're going to find a way. The key for me has been being able to share that positive energy. I want to talk about an example this week I had at work. I had a meeting with, I've been working on a large project for about a month now at work, and it's been very stressful. It's basically the first time as a company and a division that we're doing this, and I'm leading this effort with my boss and my team. And it's very challenging to come up with the strategy and operational metrics and all of this stuff, this very complicated software thing. Mm-hmm. And I just threw my hands up and I told my team, I think I'm failing you guys. And what I did in that moment, by admitting and being very vulnerable with my team, and I'm their manager, I'm supposed to be the leader who's confident, right? I said, we don't have the answers, but let's figure out the answers. So what I did is I scheduled a meeting with our wider engineering leadership team. And then a day later, I scheduled a meeting with our boss. And I solved the problem. But what happened was my team said, we're going to get through it. They lifted up their performance by me admitting my vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And they said, we got this. They said, let's get together at 2:00. This was like 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And let's figure out the format issues of this thing. We've worked a lot on this document. Let's summarize it into a particular standard format. And that got us a long ways. And then when we presented to our boss, who's a VP of engineering, he looked at it and he goes, great job, guys. He still found some ways to improve it, and there's still going to be improvements in it. And it's going to be a long haul. It's going to take us another month or so to get this done. But all this work, the vulnerability, admitting, giving other people an opportunity, my team supported me. They're like, other managers, other bosses would basically tell them to do it, and they would fail and they wouldn't do it. But we did it together as a team. And they really validated for us and really validated for me that it's about progress, not perfection.
You know, that actually shows a lot of growth just from knowing you almost our whole lives, but just reconnecting and being friends with you for the last few years. That shows huge growth in you, Vipin, saying that, you know what, I can't do, I don't know, help me out. Because I don't think 3 years ago you could have been, I don't think you could have done that 3 years ago.
I don't think I could have done that 3 years ago. And I think it's interesting how other people get an opportunity to make a difference when we do the vulnerability thing. That's why being self-love is to say, I accept I don't have all the answers. But part of confidence, real confidence, is having humility, saying, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And together we figured it out. And then Friday afternoon, when we had that meeting with the boss, everything got validated in a positive way. And we all had hopefully having a good weekend.
Right.
So getting back to this heart-centered energy thing, I just talked about a spiritual tool of self-loving, right? It increases the energy around you. And the emotional part of it is really what we said on the mantra piece as well. I'm calm and centered. When you're calm and centered, loving is the spiritual component, the heart chakra. Through calmness, you really manage and focus your energy into what's important at that moment. It's all we have is today. All we have is this moment. If we can master this moment today, and if we can master and acknowledge these moments throughout the day and practice it, right? Little by little, we'll get closer to what we want and what we want to be. Ultimately, we all want happiness. We all want joy. And the road to that is not going to be easy. Everybody's got problems. you're going to have problems. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you're a peasant on the streets. Everybody's got problems. How you deal with it is really determines your level of joy and happiness that comes out of it, and validating that to yourself that it's working.
I actually think that going back to what you said a little bit earlier, and I wrote it down because I actually liked it. It said, be kind to yourself. From what you just said, everybody's got problems. The first step to overcoming some of those problems is to be kind to yourself. Cut yourself some of the same slack that you would cut somebody else in order to, if they had that problem. And
Exactly.
That's one of the things that we don't do.
We often don't do. Some people do, and they're the ones that are calm, centered, and loving. When you're in the act of loving, right? And so opening up your energy. Now, you've heard this example of somebody amazing walks into a room, right? All of a sudden, they draw all this attention, and you all feel better when that person walks in that room. That's the energy that they're bringing. They don't have to say a whole lot in a physical room. You'll oftentimes, in a church, there's a minister or a Buddhist monk or whatever, or a leader that's calm and centered. They'll walk in a room, they'll shift the energy. The opposite can happen.
Yes.
Somebody can come in angry and negative and destroy the chemistry that was going on in that room. Managing your energy at an emotional level really is up to us. Nobody else can own your reactions. And one of the other tools that I had heard about that I love so much is don't react, respond. Respond with awareness. What you're about to say, what you're about to do is going to get you what you want. It requires that 5-second rule. We talked about it before, pausing, right? It's just practice. All of this that we're talking about is just little by little practice. And we practice it through awareness and consciousness throughout the day. We're not trying to change the world. We're not trying to change, what's going to happen in the future. All we have control is this moment of what it is that you want to get out of this moment. And it may be just for the next 3 hours, we're going to watch football today. We're going to watch the Chicago Bears. And I want to be in the best place to be able to watch the Chicago Bears. And so it's okay to be easy on yourself. You don't have to work on all these tools all the time. But maybe 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, just being aware and be kind to yourself. That's all that's required.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall Rise Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also, consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall Rise Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.